This is going to be a spicy podcast. Not that kind of spicy, you weirdos. Hi, I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick, and today we are going to talk about the situation at the United States southern border. Now, before anyone gets up in arms, we're going to do our best today not to take a political stance on the situation. Why? Because frankly, from what we've seen of the political stances, they are simply there as tools for election. They are designed simply to help politicians get into office. Nobody seems to do a damn thing about them, whether the position is extreme or not extreme. So we're going to simply look at the situation at the border, and we're going to ask some questions. We're going to give some hypothetical answers to those questions, and that's all we're going to do. I saw an interview the other day by CNN's Jake Tapper, and it was done with Senator Ayanna Pressley, I believe is her name. Senator Ayanna Pressley. She's colloquially known as a member of, she's a member of what is colloquially, wow, it actually fits though. Colloquially, that's the word, colloquially. What is colloquially known as the squad. Colloquially works too, but the squad. Now, Jake Tapper is certainly not known as a friend to the grand old party, nor should he be. I don't think reporters should be friends to either party, but he was interviewing her, and he asked her about whether or not the southern border was secure. She said 100% the southern border is secure. He made the point back that if you have illegal immigration, your border is quite literally not secure, just by definition. She sort of did the politician thing and danced around the question. Now, I don't know much about her voting record, so I don't really know if I like her or not. I do think it's a little bit silly to dodge that question. That's an easy one, because she was trying to frame the situation at the border as a humanitarian crisis. You could have simply said, our border is not secure, and the fact that there is so much focus on security as opposed to the humanitarian situation at the border is the reason we have problems. That's how you easily could have framed the situation going on down there as a humanitarian crisis. Now, certainly, I don't think Senator Ayanna Pressley listens to this podcast, and I certainly don't think she should listen to me. I am not a political consultant, nor am I involved in politics at any level, merely as a commentator. But I want to focus on one part of what she said. I'm going to side with Jake Tapper on the argument back and forth of, is the border secure? The border is not secure. But I want to focus on what she was talking about, which is the humanitarian aspect of what's going on at the border. Now, the border being unsecure is what is generating a humanitarian crisis. Put another way, the border is, I'm not going to say overrun's the wrong word, because we're talking about human beings. To say overrun is to put on the people who are coming over the border an intention they probably don't have, or that I don't know they have, which is not fair for me to do. But it is a humanitarian crisis because these people are fleeing their home countries and coming to the border by way of walking thousands of miles or hundreds of miles. I'm not sure. It's a long way from Venezuela to the United States southern border. They're passing through all these other countries. They're giving up every dollar that they have. When you come to a country and you have nothing on your back, but probably your kids because you ran out of food somewhere in Mexico, you are someone in need of humanitarian aid. So it is a humanitarian crisis at the border because the situation is not under control because more people keep coming. There's no fixed solution. There's no real money being put into how to feed these people. Now, New York City a while back declared themselves basically, if you are a migrant, we're a sanctuary city, come here, you'll be good to go. Texas took them up on that offer. and moved the migrant crisis to New York City as much as they could. Now, New York City cannot handle the influx of migrants without state or federal aid. New York City is also currently in a state of emergency due to flooding. Now, the flooding is a temporary situation, but a city that is struggling to make ends meets a state of emergency, that only exacerbates the problem. So the humanitarian aspect of this is something which we really can't keep ignoring, and it's largely ignored in the debate because we're simply talking about the security aspect of the border. And ignoring that in the debate is dangerous, I think, for the soul of a country that's sort of built on immigrants. Now, look, one way to solve the illegal immigration crisis is to just get rid of the southern border. If you don't want to spend the money to secure the southern border, just don't have it. Just don't have a southern border. I mean, that solves the crisis because then you have no illegal immigration because you have no immigration policies. Does that have a cascading effect of 10x that you'd have to account for? Yeah. Yeah, because then why would you go into any other border? You could just go through Mexico. I don't know what Mexico's illegal immigration policy is, whether or not they would frown on, for example, someone from Europe finding a way into Mexico to then use that to get into the United States. But I think when you look at what's happening at the border, if you ignore the human element of it, you'll never solve it because it's a completely conceptual problem. Well, should we put a wall up? Should we do this? Should we do that? And in the meantime, people are still coming into the country. And the courts are so overwhelmed that the courts are essentially just doing I don't know if you'd call it a catch and release policy. That seems, again, to dehumanize the situation. But they're essentially issuing dates of come back to court on this date and then, releasing people without bond or bail or whatever. And then people just are coming into the country and staying. And then somebody else said something to me. They were like, well, most illegal immigration happens just when people overstay their visas. We don't seem to be mad about that. I actually find that to be much worse than somebody fighting for their life to get over the southern border away from whatever they're fleeing. Because if you overstay a visa, you've essentially signed a contract saying, like, yes, I acknowledge I'm in the country temporarily and I'm in the country under these conditions. And then you essentially just said, nah, screw it. I don't need to listen to this. To me, that's worse. A family that's desperate, who flees with everything on their back, is willing to throw themselves over barbed wire because what they're facing back home is so much worse. To me, that situation demands compassion. The situation that does not demand compassion is the person who came over from Switzerland and overstayed their visa. And chose to overstay their visa rather than, say, accidentally overstayed their visa or made a mistake. But again, none of these questions will be solved because we've completely dehumanized the issue and we've turned people who are immigrating illegally into the country into essentially little more than rats, which, again, should make you feel uncomfortable in a country that's built on immigration. It's completely okay. If your opinion is, we need strong borders because a country is essentially defined by its borders, I tend to lean more in that direction. 100%. I think that's a legitimate opinion. If you said to me, I don't think we should have borders, I disagree with your opinion, but there is some backing for your opinion. There is some support for that position. The halfway point is where we're stuck right now. We have borders, but if you're inside the border, you should be essentially granted status. Whether you or not you should be granted status, the argument should not be focused on the status. Right now, you really can't have an argument. Right now, you basically just have to redirect resources that would have been to border security to say, we've got people coming over the border who are just absolutely starving. They may be sick. We don't know, but we can't leave them in the street to die. That's essentially what we're doing right now, is coming up with our solution as we go forward is essentially, we're going to let you into the country, but good luck. Go F yourself. We've created the problem. Whether or not we're going to solve it left or right, we still have to treat the human beings who are coming in as human beings and not as vermin. That's what the debate is missing on both sides. I don't know. Whether or not this made sense will be a barometer for whether or not I have any subscribers after people listen to this podcast. If you liked it, like and subscribe. If you didn't like it and you want to leave the podcast, I won't blame you. It was nice having you around. Talk later. I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick. Have a great day.